Hello everyone, welcome to this session. Our chapter is map work, and we're still discussing about the measurement of distance on the map. So far in our previous video, we saw the various distances. We said that the distances on the map, they can be straight or curved. Now today, let's see how you can measure all these kinds of distances. We'll see tools for measuring the distance. Tools for measuring distances. Here we'll see various equipments that are required when you're trying to measure distance on the map. Now there are three main tools that are used for measuring distances on maps. These are they are as follows. The first one is a long thin string or thread, the other one a piece of paper, and a pair of dividers. So all the three are just main tools that you can use to measure distance on the map. We'll start with the first way on measuring of distance by using thread or string. A long thin string such as a sewing thread can be used to measure a stretch of many curves or bends. So we said that distances on the maps, they can either be straight or curved. Now a thread or a string can be used to measure distances that are curved or the distances that have bends. Now this is the commonest method used by geography students or these the ones who those who make the maps to estimate the distances on maps. This method is used to estimate straight distances. So the following are just some of the procedures on how you can measure using a pair or just using a thread or a string. The first one is just identify the distance to be measured on the map. Take an example on the map. You can see maybe a river, road, railway line, etc., and mark its two ends points. The two ends points with the sharp pencil. Now mark one end maybe as point A and the other as point B. As you can see here, as it has been illustrated here. Take an example. This is a curved distance. Maybe it's kind of a river or something else. Here let's say it's a river X. Now we've marked the point A and point B. Now from there, starting from one end of the string, take an example point A, trace the route. Take an example maybe river, road, etc. with the string as shown in the figure below. Here we are trying to track this river X, so we've started from point A. Now using that string or thread, you try to track that distance just to follow its path from point A to point B. Now mark the string with an ink at point B, so you identify where that distance it has ended. Now using a ruler or a linear scale, measure the length of the string between point A and point B and estimate the actual distance on the ground using the scale of the map provided. So there you will be have already measured that kind of a distance using a thread or a string. Now measurement of distance using piece of paper. A piece of paper can also be used to measure straight and irregular or these curved or bent distances. Measuring straight distances, procedures they are as follows. Locate the distance to be measured on the map and mark its two endpoints as maybe point A and B using a sharp pencil. After locating them, take a piece of paper, fold it to form a straight edge and lay the edge along the line AB and mark the exact length of the line on the edge of the paper as shown in the figure below. So you have laid that paper, you're trying to lay that paper to those marked points, point A and B. So you have laid to first you have fold that paper in a straight edge, and you have laid that those edge of the paper along the line A and B, and you mark this line, line AB, and you mark the exact length of the line of the edge of the paper as you have seen in this diagram here. Moving on, transfer the paper to a linear scale or ruler as indicated in the figure below. So you have transferred that paper to a linear scale or a ruler. You can simply use it so that the left hand mark, that is A, is on 0. So the left hand mark, that is the starting point, that is point A, should be to point 0. Then from there you can measure the distance. Use the provided scale to estimate the actual ground distance. So there you have already measured the distance of that point, of that place that is a straight line from the map. Moving on, let's see measuring irregular distances. Now measuring irregular distances by using paper procedures, there as follows. Identify the length to be measured on the map. Use the sharp pencil to mark both ends, maybe point A and B, and then divide the route into sections which are more or less straight as shown in the figure below. So here we're trying to use the paper to measure the distance of these irregular or curved distances. So after marking point A and B, those ends, then you try to divide this kind of a irregular route or route of this maybe a river or other something else that is curved. Then you try to divide it into few just small sections which are less curved, just to make those divided these divided sections to be a little bit straight, so that you can use the paper to measure that kind of a distance. Now lay the straight edge of the paper on the first straight section of the route and mark with your pencil where the route ends. As you can see, here is illustrated, that is point A. Now turn the paper so that the edge now rises along the second part of the route. So you try to just turn the paper, the same goes to other points. Make sure that the mark you made is still on the point where the route bends. Now make another mark with your pencil as at the bend, that is point 2. Now after that, continue shifting the paper and marking the other distances between the points on the route. After continuing that, after you finished it, remove the marked paper and using a ruler measure from where you started to the last mark on the paper. Now if this distance is 20 centimeter and the scale is 1 centimeter to 1 kilometer, then simply therefore then the distance of the route of between point A and B is 20 kilometer. So that's all I have for this session. I hope that's clear, everyone. Thank you for listening. We've discussed these various ways of measuring distances on the map. We've seen how you can measure the straight distances, and then how also you can measure the curved distances by using the string or thread, and by also using paper. We've seen how you can use the paper to measure the straight distances and the curved distances. I hope that's all clear, and thank you.